Hello everyone, welcome to Nilanjana's exclusive English lessons and welcome to HSC English class 12. Today we are going to discuss the lesson History of Novel. It's quite a lengthy lesson for grade 12 students and I'm here to help you out with this lesson because many students feel that this lesson is quite lengthy, it is a little difficult, but honestly speaking, it is not at all difficult. I'll make it super easy for you. Yes, you just have to remember certain facts, but there is nothing difficult about it. Okay, so we are going to make it really easy. And so that you can answer all the questions without any complexities. Okay, so let's begin. Those who are new to my channel, on this channel, you will find a lot of content related to literature, language, grammar, and many more. ICSE, CBSE, a lot of detailed videos have already been discussed here. But yes, this is the first time I'm doing a grade 12 video, though I have planned doing it before, but somehow it was not possible. Anyway, so yes, if you feel that this content is helpful, you can go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also share this video with your friends if you think this can help them. All right, so we are beginning with the history of novel. So first of all, if we have to understand history of novel, we also have to understand the fact that why is novel important in terms of literature and culture. All right, why do people read novels? So let us quickly go through some of the points related to importance of novels in literature and culture. The first thing is the novel is a reflection of society. Whatever is happening in the society, you will find the same reflection in the novel, and that's the reason we can relate to whatever we are reading. Like whatever crimes, whatever situations are happening in the society, the kind of values people have in the society in a particular time, in a particular period, all these things will be seen reflected in the novel. Second thing, the novel is also an exploration of human experience. When we read about the characters in the novels, we get to know the various emotions they go through. We also understand the kind of mindset they have, the kind of relationships they have, the kind of experiences they go through. Therefore, it also gives us an opportunity to explore the various kinds of human experience. Next is the novel also provides us cultural diversity. How do the novels provide cultural diversity? Because it offers a platform for authors from various backgrounds to share their stories. Like in this lesson, History of Novel, as you progress in this lesson, we will read about novelists, 18th century, 19th century, women novelists, then immigrant authors. So when we read about various kinds of authors from various backgrounds, we also get to know the stories that they share, and the stories that they share will also reflect about their own culture. Next is the novels also give us entertainment and escapism. Escapism from what? Escapism from reality. Many of us, we love to read imaginative stories, adventurous stories, stories about fantasy. Why do we love to read stories about fantasy? Why do we love to read stories about romance? Because it gives us a chance to escape from the real world. It provides us with entertainment. So whether it is mystery, romance, fantasy, adventure, it is a means of relaxation and also mental stimulation. Next is novels also contribute to language and vocabulary. So we get to know diverse vocabulary, means vocabulary of various kinds. Sometimes it can be simple, sometimes it can be complex. We can get to know or experience various sentence structures and writing styles. Novels also influence our culture. Iconic novels means famous novels. They often become a part of the cultural conversations and influence art, music, film, and other forms of media. So, therefore, there is no denial to the fact that novel is an extremely form of popular literature. Therefore, there is no controversy to the fact that novel is an extremely popular form of literature. So, therefore, we understand that novel is a versatile literary form and it has evolved over time. It did not start all of a sudden, right? And there was a certain point of time when novels did not exist. So, in this lesson, we are going to explore when did it start, before novels existed, what was there, and therefore, over the period of time, how it has evolved. So, in the 18th century, before novels existed, there were two things which were very popular. So the first one is periodical essay and the second one is novel. Novel is a versatile literary form that has evolved over time. In the 18th century, two things became popular. One is periodical essay and the other one is novel. Now, what is a periodical essay? A periodical essay is an essay or an article that is published periodically. Over a period of time, in series, they get published. So, in the 18th century, these two things became really popular. One is a periodical essay and the other one is a novel. So, by reading novels, people became more intellectual. They became more wise. They got the knowledge about the world. And they also became sentimental. They developed feelings and emotions. Now, if you ask me, how did they actually become sentimental? Because when they saw the character going through certain feelings and emotions, they also developed the same emotions within themselves. Like, for example, if you read about Oliver Twist, right? When you are reading about Oliver Twist, you see the kind of suffering that he goes through, the kind of difficulties he goes through as an orphan. You feel for the character, right? We are able to relate to whatever he goes through, especially children, even adults, because it's really a very sad story. Therefore, by reading such stories and by reading about such characters, we become more sentimental. And the third thing is we also become realistic. Realistic novels gives us a real life picture of the world that we live in, a real life picture of the society that we live in. Therefore, we also become realistic. Novels set examples for the readers and made life more more purposeful and virtuous. Purposeful, why? Because we all have a purpose for living our life. There is an aim, there is an ambition, there is a motto, and it also helps us to become more virtuous. Virtuous means we are aware about what is good, what is bad. So, by developing these virtues, the good qualities a human being should have, all the credit, you can say, those who read, it goes to the novel. That's the reason, we keep on telling that you should read. By reading, you develop so many qualities. It's not just you learn English, because everybody tells that, especially students, that if you read, yeah, of course you can develop your English. Yes, but it's not just your English, you also become a better human being. Novel is the most popular literary genre. So, therefore, for all these reasons, even today, it's the most popular literary genre compared to drama and poetry. It is a long narrative fiction, means a long narrative, a story, a long story. Where does the word novel come from? It comes from the Italian word novella. It means new. Difference between novel and stories is that the novel always has more details, in details referring to time, place, people, and so on. Whereas stories are not that detailed. And novel makes life easier to understand. So these are some of the important points that you get in your lesson, the first and second paragraph. Okay, now we come to the third paragraph. So I have actually summarized the points and given it in point wise over here. You all can pause the video and even note down the points. Before novel came into existence, what was there? So before novel came into existence, we have some examples of Greek romances that existed in the 2nd to 6th century. These romances were imaginative by nature and they were also delightful stories of love and adventure. Among the three very old novels that existed, we have Virgil's Eclogues, Malory's Morte d'Arthur, and Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. So you have to remember these names. So please learn these names, all of you. And as I have said that in this lesson, there is nothing much to understand. But yes, there are a lot of facts because you are talking about the history of novels. Now we come to some important early novels. Some important early novels we have Tale of Genji, a Japanese novel written by Lady Murasaki Shikibu. We have Don Quixote written by Cervantes. In your lower grades, many of you must have read this. Even not the entire novel, but yes, some extracts of the novel is also there in grade 6, 7, 5th curriculum. So now we come to the fact, how did the English novel come up or how did it rise? What are the reasons that led to the rise of the English novel. So before English novels actually became popular, suddenly there was an increase in the interest of reading newspapers. So how did the newspaper become popular? So over the period of time, we have seen that in the earlier novels, which were very imaginative, which had about romances and adventures, slowly and slowly people's interest, it started changing. When people started reading newspapers, they realized that newspapers and magazines presented facts and the real facts. So these new readers, they lost interest in romance and tragedies. So people started taking interest in factual and realistic stories. So what do we read in the newspaper on an everyday basis? What is happening around us, right? Which kind of events are happening? What is the situation of the country? What is the situation of the neighboring countries? So these kind of facts and realistic stories are presented in the newspaper, and the people started taking an interest in all that. So therefore, they like to read the newspapers. So the new novels that started emerging also depicted life as it is. So they depicted life, facts about life, and realistic stories. Increase in trade and commerce gave rise to the middle class. Now, earlier, before Industrial Revolution, there was no middle class. There was only an upper class, and there were the poor people, poor class of people. So, after there was an increase in trade and commerce, so what happened is business flourished, people started earning money, and there was a new class which emerged, which is known as the middle class. So these middle class people, they started reading novels, and their interest mainly centered on reading novels which were realistic, and therefore novels which started being written at that time, they had some new features. So it was a combination of drama, poetry, plus some new features which gave rise to novels. So these novels, they contain facts and stories about social, political, cultural, and scientific progress. So it was not just romances, it was not just adventures, but it encompassed life as it is, the social conditions of our life, the political conditions of our life, and so on. Okay, so we come to the next part of the lesson where we are going to talk about various novels and novelists over the period of time, starting from 17th century, 18th century, 20th century. So we are going to learn all these names, and you have to remember these names. So let's come to the important novelist of the era. So we have The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. These novels were written in the year 1678, 1688, and so on, in that period of time. Then we have Oronoku by Aphra Behn. We have Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. These were some of the novels which were written during that time. Then we have the other major important novelist of the 18th century. So who are they? Daniel Defoe, Samuel Richardson, Henry Fielding, Lawrence Sterne, and Tobias Smollett. Then we also have some stalwart novelists. So who are the stalwart novelists? Stalwart, the word stalwart means very impressive, remarkable, big personalities. Names which are always, told with a lot of respect. Like, for example, Charles Dickens. I think every student of English literature is aware about the kind of novels that he has written. He is a novel which is respected throughout the history of English literature and will be in future. Then we have Thomas Hardy, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Horace Walpole. So these are all the stalwart, iconic novelists. Then we have the 20th century novelists. This 20th century means now slowly and slowly we are coming to the modern era. So as we are progressing towards the modern era, we will have novels which depict life, the realistic picture of life. So who are they? We have E.M. Forster. 20th century novelists E.M. Forster, James Joyce, Joseph Conrad, Henry James, George Orwell. So these are all the 20th century novelists. Then we have immigrant novelists. Immigrant novelists, they have also made a mark on contemporary literature. Immigrant means people who have come from the other countries. Salman Rushdie, V.S. Naipaul, Kazuo Ishiguro. Then we have some notable women novelists. Women novelists, they are the notable women novelists and they have also made significant contributions to literature. We have Jane Austen, renowned. Why she's so famous? Because for her novels like Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma. Then we have Charlotte Bronte, famous for her novel Jane Eyre. Then we have George Eliot, also known as Marianne Evans, known for her novels Middlemarch, Silas Marner. Then we have Virginia Woolf. She's a central figure in the modernist movement, and her works are Mrs. Dalloway, Lighthouse, which are very famous. So, all these names you have to remember. You can note it down, or you can also take a screenshot from the screen. Now we have to understand that what is the difference between a novel and a novella. We have already discussed in the beginning of the video, right? So, what is a novella? A novella, you can say in simple terms, is a short story's big sibling. I've made it little easy for you to understand. Like if short story is like your chota bhai or brother, then a novella will be your elder brother. A novella is like a short story's big sibling. It's longer than a short story, but shorter than a full length novel. So it is somewhere in between. It's neither too short nor too long. So novellas are just the right size for a cozy reading session. If you don't have the patience to read big fat novels, you can start with a novella, because if you want to spend an afternoon reading something interesting, you want to get some comfort out of reading, you can try definitely a novella. They are focused and intense. Why they are focused? Because they deal usually with one main story. So therefore, there is little scope of deviating from the main story, and also it will grab your attention quickly. Novellas often grab your attention quickly and get right into the heart of the story. Some famous novellas are Heart of Darkness, Turn of the Screw, Billy Budd, Death in Venice, Seize the Day, and Pearl. So again, please remember these names. You may be asked a question, name some important novellas. Now we come to a very important part of the lesson, which is centered on the elements of novel. Means which are the elements a novel should have. Without it, a novel is of, you can say, no use. These elements should be there. And those who have done story writing in your lower grades, I'm sure you can connect with these elements, because the elements in story and the elements in novel are more or less same, except for minor differences. First of all, the main difference you already know is the length, right? So let's discuss the major elements of the novel. So the first one is characters. A novel has multiple characters, major characters and minor characters, right? So the major characters are the characters who are the main protagonist of the novel. Again, you have to also understand over here that there is something called protagonist. Who is a protagonist? A protagonist is the main character of the novel, and he is most of the time in conflict with somebody who is called an antagonist. So antagonist in simple words can also be said a villain, but not necessarily that antagonist is somebody always an external force. Antagonist can also be an internal force. Then we have the setting. Setting is where and when the story takes place. It could be a magical land, it could be a big city, it could be the past, present, or future. But yes, when it comes to setting, you have to talk about the place, period, time, climate, weather, and lifestyle. Next, we have the plot. Now, plot is very important. What is plot? Plot is a series of events that happens in the novel. It is like a roadmap that guides the characters through their journey. Various events that take place in the entire story or novel, that is called the plot. It's not just one event, but a series of events. Then we come to conflict. Okay, what is conflict? Now, this is the problem or challenge the characters face. It could be a mystery to solve, a monster to defeat, or even a personal struggle. Please remember that a conflict is very important. It has to be there in the novel, Without this, a story or a novel becomes means it is of no use. It becomes extremely boring. So therefore, remember that always there should be a problem or a challenge which the protagonist should face. It can be an internal conflict also. It can be an external conflict also. So what is an internal conflict? Now, internal conflict means, let's say there is a character who goes through certain challenges, right? He is some kind of a villain. He has some vices in himself. He has some faults which he needs to correct. So how he learns, how he slowly becomes a better person over the period of time. All right, there are characters who are like, very lazy. They don't wake up on time. They are never punctual, and therefore they miss out all the important events. They don't realize the importance of time. So throughout the story, over the period of time, you will see how this character slowly and slowly develops. So this is an internal conflict, how he fights that in conflict and comes out of it. External conflict could be anything. It could be a villain. It could be a group of terrorists. It could be somebody, for example, you have some kind of a challenge with someone and how you fight that person out, a monster. Then we come to the theme. A theme is the big idea or the message that the story is trying to share. Let's say, we have just, I think many of us have watched the movie Oppenheimer. I just watched it some days back. So, what is the theme of that story? Yeah, I want all of you to comment over here because I know many of you have already watched. So, what is the theme of the movie Oppenheimer? Theme refers to the message. Please put it in the comments. I would be glad to read your answers so that I understand that whether theme the concept of theme you all have understood or not. And yes, I also wanted to tell you at this point that if you're enjoying the video, if you think you're getting content which is helpful, fruitful for your exams, please do hit the like button. Let me know that whether this video is benefiting you or not so that I get motivated. And if I get a lot of good responses, I promise I will make more videos on HSC grade 12. That's a promise from my end. All right. So yes, please share your comments and go and hit the like button and help me reach 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. All right, so the theme is the big idea or the message of the story. Then we come to the tone. What is a tone? A tone is the mood of the story. It could be a funny tone, it could be a sad tone, it could be an exciting tone, or even a serious tone. Like some stories are told in a humorous way. The message can be a serious one, but the tone is humorous. Like you convey an important message through some funny incidents. All right. So it's how the author wants you to feel as you read. Then we come to language and style. So when it comes to language and style, you will see that this is the way the author writes. Now there are many authors. Like for example, we have a very popular women author Sudha Murthy. Those who have read her stories, her language is so simple and yet so powerful, right? So her stories can be read by children as well as adults. On the other hand, you have novels, which are like classic novels, where the language is really complex and rich and difficult. So for them, the audience is again different. Like for example, if you want to read Sherlock Holmes novel, you will find that the language is pretty rich and pretty complex. Yes, you will learn a lot of vocabulary from there, good words, rich, that will add richness, that will help you to adorn the language. So language and style differs from one author to the other author, and they differ in terms of verse, sentence length, and how they describe things. So these are the elements of the novel. Next, we come to types of novel. Now there are various kinds of novel, and we are going to have a quick recap of all the kinds of novel, and I'm sure it will be very easy for you to remember. Right? I hope children, you all are understanding. So let's begin with the first one, realistic novel. Like from the name realistic itself, you can understand. Excuse me. From the name itself, you can understand what is realistic novel. It portrays life as it is, real life as it is, with believable characters and events. Means whatever is happening, whatever the character does, that means these characters are very relatable. You can relate with your own life and as well as the events. Example, Pride and Prejudice, Kill a Mockingbird. Then we have Gothic novel. In Gothic novel, we have mysterious settings, haunted houses, dark atmosphere, and all supernatural elements. So horror stories can be a Gothic novel. superstitious elements like Frankenstein. These are Gothic novels. Dracula. Then we have historical novels, like you have seen movies, no, historical movies like Jodha Akbar, all those movies. They are historical movies. So they depict the history of that particular time. Padmavat. So they have blended real events with fictional characters and situations. Example, The Book Thief, All the Light We Cannot See. These are some examples which I have given. Next, we have picaresque novel. Picaresque novel follows the adventures of a roguish, often lower class protagonist. A rogue refers to a villain. So in the picaresque novel, the main character is more like a villain. Example, Don Quixote by Cervantes. Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Tom Sawyer, even Tom Sawyer, if you read that, what kind of mischiefs he was always up to. Destructive characters. They always do something wrong. Then we have the epistolary novel. Epistolary novel are novels which are told through letters, diary entries, or other documents. So they are basically told through a series of correspondence. Diary of Anne Frank, it's a very clear-cut example of epistolary novel. Those who have read the novel, you know that how she used to communicate through her diaries, through her diary entries. Then we have autobiographical novel. Autobiographical novel means based on the author's own life experience. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Then we have allegorical novels. In the allegorical novel, characters and events are used to represent abstract ideas or moral lessons. That means apparently it is a story, but beneath that there's a symbolic meaning. It has a double meaning story, right? Because through that double meaning, you're trying to convey a moral lesson. Example, Animal Farm by George Orwell. Then we have the utopian novel. A utopian novel presents an ideal society, a society which doesn't exist now, but in near future it may exist, a society devoid of all flaws, all faults, often contrasting with the flaws of the real world. See, in the real world, we have a lot of flaws. We have so many vices. We have lies, we have corruption, we have trickery, we have treachery, we have betrayal, we have all these flaws. But in a utopian novel, you will see all the good things. A rosy picture of the world is provided so that you can contrast it with the real flaws of the society. Then we have the psychological novel. A psychological novel focuses on characters' internal thoughts, feelings, and mental processes. Example, Crime and Punishment, The Bell Jar, etc. Then we have the stream of conscious novel. Okay, stream of conscious novel. What is it? It is a novel which reveals the character's thoughts and feelings in a continuous, unfiltered flow. It is a flow of thought. And you have a story in your book which is written in the stream of consciousness technique. And I'm sure all of you know which lesson I'm referring to. Yes? Can anyone tell me? All right. I would be waiting for your answers, and I'm going to reveal the answer towards the end of the video. But yes, I want to see the answers also. All right. I'm giving you a clue. It's written by Virginia Woolf. It is there in your curriculum. In your portion, you have it. Okay. So that is a stream of consciousness novel where you get the flow of thoughts of the main character. The last one we come to, it's a Bildungsroman novel. Bildungsroman is actually a novel which talks about the word Bildungsroman refers to the German word. It means growth. It follows the protagonist's growth and development from youth to adulthood. Example, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, The Catcher in the Rye. Each type of novel that we have read today, all the various kinds of novel that we have read today, they offer a unique perspective and style, and it caters to different interests. Literary preferences. अब अगर आप लोग पूछोगे मुझे कि मैम why so many kinds of novel? Because every individual has a different taste. Every individual has a different preference. Right? किसी को Chinese पसंद है तो किसी को North Indian खाना पसंद है. So everybody will not read the same kind of novel. Right? So therefore, each type of novel offers a unique perspective and style catering to different audience. And yes, I missed out certain things in the lesson which I'm going to cover now. I missed out the Indian scenario. Now, in the Indian scenario, we have Rajmohan's Wife, written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. This is the time when he wrote about nationalistic virtues. Now, Bankim Chandra wrote at a time where the nationalistic feelings in the country, it was very high. Why? Because India was fighting for its struggle. So all his novels, most of his novels will depict nationalistic feelings and virtues, social issues of that time. Which were the social issues at that time? Superstitious beliefs. Okay, women were not allowed to come out. There was a Padda system which prevailed. There was sati which was there. Widows were not allowed to remarry. So all these issues have been highlighted in his novels. Then we have also famous Indian novelist, the major trio, Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Narayan, Raja Rao. They were the major trio. We also have Anita Desai, Nayantara Sehgal, Arun Joshi, Manohar Malgaonkar. They also revolutionized in English novel, Indian English novel through their works. Then new modern novelists like Amitav Ghosh, Vikram Seth, Upamanyu Chatterjee, they revolutionized the Indian novel and they also added new features to it. Modern novelists like Salman Rushdie, Arvind Adiga, Arundhati Roy, Kiran Nagarkar, they have also written novels and their novels have exhibited global concerns. So with this, we come to the end of this video where I have covered, all the important facts of the history of novel, how it originated, and what are the various kinds. And I think you got in a nutshell the summary of the lesson. If you need more help, please write it in the comments. And if you want more videos like this for HSC Class 12, please let me know so that I can make more videos on this. All right. So thank you so much for listening. And do not forget to hit the bell icon. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to like and share it with your friends. Thank you so much and have a great day.